It was supposed to be a dream. On a sunlit spring morning in a sleepy German town, Elise had said yes to the man of her dreams. He wasn't rich, nor particularly handsome, but Martin had a way of making her feel grounded, safe. And for a girl raised in a fractured household, safety felt like love. Their wedding wasn't lavish. They couldn't afford it, but it didn't matter. Elise remembered dancing barefoot on the grass, with daisies in her hair and nothing but joy. In her heart, her mother had whispered, "Real love is choosing the same person every day." Even when they can't offer you anything back, she didn't know how prophetic that line would become. They moved into a modest flat in Dresden. Martin worked as an accountant. Elise, after finishing her social work degree, began working part-time at a local shelter. They cooked together, fought about laundry, made up under warm blankets, and talked about names for future children. It was a simple life, but a full one. But then came the cough. At first, Martin joked about it. "Just a seasonal thing," he said. Elise wasn't worried. They were in their early 30s, fit, healthy, barely missed a day of work. But weeks passed. The cough deepened. A low fever followed. Then fatigue. Then a fall in the shower that left Martin dazed and pale. By the time doctors discovered the underlying neurological disease, something rare, degenerative, without a cure, Elise had already started sleeping lighter, listening for his breathing. In the dark, "We don't know how fast it will progress," the neurologist had said. They had driven home in silence that day. She remembered how Martin kept squeezing her hand, as if afraid she'd vanish with the diagnosis. But she didn't vanish, she stayed. 6 months later, their apartment was filled with pill bottles, mobility aids, and forms for disability benefits. Martin could no longer work. Elise had to quit her job. The once strong man who used to carry her up the stairs now struggled to brush his own teeth. And Elise, who never imagined herself a caregiver, was now a full-time nurse, with no training, no breaks, and no end in sight. At first there was hope, a new medication, a therapy trial, but each time, the results were the same: decline. "Maybe we can go on one last trip," Martin had said once, smiling faintly. Elise had smiled back, but inside her chest, something cracked. There was no last trip. There was only this apartment, the smell of antiseptic, and the endless ticking of a clock that seemed to move both too fast and not at all. She tried not to cry in front of him. She learned how to smile through it. She told friends she was managing when they texted, once every 3 weeks, but she wasn't managing. She was drowning. There were nights when she sat in the bathroom with the faucet running just to muffle her sobs. There were mornings when she stood over Martin's sleeping body and whispered, "I love you," followed by, "I don't know how much longer I can do this." Guilt clung to her like a second skin. Yet she stayed. Every day she fed him, bathed him, reassured him when he forgot simple words, helped him pee, changed his clothes, rubbed his legs when they cramped, watched his muscles betray him, one by one. And Martin, he never complained. That was the worst part. One evening, as rain tapped against the window, Martin looked at her and said, "I feel like I'm killing you slowly." Elise froze. He reached for her hand. "You didn't sign up for this." She knelt beside the bed, her eyes wet. "But I meant the vows, Martin. In sickness and in health." He tried to smile, but it was weak. "I didn't think the sickness would come so soon." Neither had she, but it had, and it wasn't going away. Martin's decline was not dramatic. It was quiet, like pages of a book, turning slowly toward the end. He could no longer stand without assistance. Words slipped from his vocabulary like sand through fingers. First, it was knife and shirt. Then came Tuesday, kitchen, Elise. That last one broke her. The first time he looked at her and said, "I'm sorry. Have we met?" She laughed, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. She went to the bathroom, locked the door, and slid down the tiles, her body trembling. She didn't cry anymore. Not properly. Her tears came in silence now, in the form of breathless gasps and hollow eyes. That evening she stood in front of the mirror. The woman staring back looked older than her 35 years. Dark circles, graying, roots, a perpetual frown carved into her brow. "I'm becoming invisible," she whispered. Friends stopped visiting, not out of cruelty, but out of discomfort. They didn't know what to say. Martin, once the life of every dinner party, now stared, blankly, sometimes drooling, sometimes panicking, when he didn't recognize their faces. Her mother called weakly. "You need to think about your life too, Elise." But Elise had already stopped thinking of it as her life. Her world now revolved around medication schedules, lifting belts, and skin rashes from sitting too long in one position. Sleep came in snatches. Meals were an afterthought. Romance, a distant memory. And yet, she never considered leaving. One afternoon, while helping Martin eat, he suddenly slapped the spoon from her hand. Food flew onto the walls. His eyes flashed with rage. "Stop it! I'm not a child!" Then he burst into tears. Elise froze. This was new. Frustration had replaced confusion. And for a second, she felt it too. Burning anger. But she didn't shout. She sat beside him, held his hand, and whispered, "I know. I'm sorry." Later that night, she found herself staring at the open drawer beside their bed. In it were a pair of old theatre tickets. Their first date. It felt like another life. Another woman. One who didn't spend her days changing adult diapers and hiding bruises on her soul. She whispered into the darkness, "I miss you, Martin." Even though he was right there, breathing beside her. By autumn, Martin could no longer swallow solid food. A feeding tube was suggested. Elise hesitated. Martin had once told her, "If I ever become just a body, don't keep me here." But what did just a body mean? Wasn't he still him, somewhere? The day she signed the hospital forms, she felt like she was signing away a part of herself. Winter came, harsh and fast. Snow blanketed the streets. Inside, the apartment was warm, but Elise felt cold all the time, emotionally frozen. Even the holidays felt like a cruel joke. She placed a small plastic tree on the table and hung a single ornament. Love endures. She wasn't sure she believed that anymore. One night, Martin, barely able to speak, grabbed her wrist. His voice was raspy. "Why are you still here?" She paused, surprised. Then she answered, "Because leaving you would hurt more than staying." He smiled faintly. For a moment, his eyes cleared. "I love you, Lisa." She kissed his forehead and whispered, "I still see you, even when you can't see yourself." Spring returned, but Elise hardly noticed. The cherry blossoms bloomed outside their apartment window. The same ones she and Martin used to walk beneath in the early days. But now, the curtains remained closed most of the time. Light hurt Martin's eyes, and Elise had grown used to living in half shadow. By now, Martin had stopped speaking entirely. He stared, sometimes blinking slowly, other times seeming to look right through her. The feeding tube had become normal. The wheelchair felt like a part of the furniture. She spoke to him daily, sometimes reading poetry, sometimes humming old French songs he used to love. But it felt like talking to a ghost, and yet she kept doing it, not because she expected a reply, but because not doing it would mean he was truly gone. One morning, Elise found herself walking to the park alone. She hadn't left Martin's side for more than 20 minutes in over a year. A kind nurse from the hospice team had urged her, Just go breathe. Even caregivers need air. She sat on a bench under the pink canopy of blossoms. She could smell the early rain in the air. A couple passed by, holding hands. Young, laughing. The woman wore a light blue coat, the same color Elise wore on her honeymoon. And just like that, the tears came. Open, raw, ugly. People walked past, politely ignoring her as Europeans often do. But Elise didn't care. For the first time in years, she let herself feel everything. The loss, the exhaustion, the fierce love, the stolen dreams, the quiet rage. She cried not just for Martin, but for the life they didn't get to live. That evening, when she returned, she found the nurse waiting quietly in the hallway. "Elise," the nurse said gently, "you should come in." She knew. Before the words were even spoken, her knees buckled slightly, but she walked into the room, calm. Martin lay still, too still. His face was relaxed, more than it had been in months, like a man who had just fallen asleep. Elise sat beside him, took his hand. It was warm, still, but no longer holding on. She whispered, "You did good. You held on for so long. Thank you." She kissed his forehead and laid her head beside him on the pillow, not sobbing, just still. She stayed like that until the nurse gently touched her shoulder. He's at peace now. 6 months later, Elise now lives in a small flat by the Rhine River. She volunteers twice a week at a hospice center, helping others, going through what she did. Some mornings, she walks to the park and sits under the cherry trees again. She doesn't cry anymore, not like before, but some memories still sting. The way Martin smiled when he made her coffee, the time he tried to surprise her with a candlelit dinner and burned the rice. She doesn't feel bitter, she feels full. She loved someone so deeply that she became his memory keeper when his own mind couldn't. And though it broke her, it also built something quiet and strong inside her. She still wears her wedding ring, not because she's waiting, but because it reminds her that real love doesn't always look like a fairy tale. Sometimes it looks like spoon-feeding soup at 2 a.m. Sometimes it's silent, exhausting, invisible, but always, it's sacred.